You've seen the signs
Coming
several
up
times.
on Listen
and
Lissa.
You're getting angrier and angrier, and then you're blowing up, and then you're going.
They didn't like my kindness. They tested my patience. They didn't like the kind, soft side of me. They walked all over that. So now they get this.
No. No. Because every time, I know for me, at least speaking for me, that really is out of my character, 100%. It almost pains me to go to that level. Ouch! It does pain me. I'm filled with shame after the fact. I hate it. I absolutely wish I could erase it every time it happens, and I just feel so regretful. Every single time across the board. There's not one time I can point to that I can go,
I feel really good about the fact that I did that. There was nothing wrong there.
no, I don't feel that way at all. I wish I could take them all back.
Hey! Listen!
Hey! Welcome back to Listen Lissa. I'm your host, Alyssa. How you doing? How you doing? So I have a fantastic episode in store for you, okay? Today's episode is going to be about the fearful avoidant. Wow. Fearful avoidant is probably the most baffling for most people, especially those that don't have that attachment style, but also for those who do. I personally am a fearful avoidant, so I'm speaking from that perspective. It can be baffling. It can be baffling as a fearful avoidant to be a fearful avoidant. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 6 common tendencies of a fearful avoidant when they are faced with conflict, when they are faced with dysregulation, when in their relationship they feel very fearful, those moments where they want to completely pull away because it's scary. This video will be a huge help if you have a fearful avoidant in your life. If you're in some type of a relationship with a fearful avoidant, it doesn't matter what kind of relationship, this can be helpful for you to better understand them. Also, if you are a fearful avoidant, and sometimes you might struggle to really put an explanation to why you do the things that you do. You might have an overall understanding internally of why you do what you do, but sometimes it's hard to put it into words for others to get a good perspective on it and better understand you. So this video will really help you with that. So let's get started. And if you're enjoying learning about attachment style, you like learning about the people you're in relationships with, you want to learn more about your own attachment style, it's been said by more and more experts that attachment style is possibly the #1 factor in relationship that is important to focus on to have a healthy, fulfilling, successful relationship. Wow. So hello, you're in the right place. So if that's you, smash the subscribe button. I don't want you to miss any other episodes. I have new content coming out weekly, and it's going to be all about attachment style and relationships and all of these great things that all of us need in our lives. So make sure you hit subscribe. When I said that, you probably saw a little YouTube has a new feature. It's really cool. It's like highlighting it. Watch this. Hit that like button. Did it do it? I'm magic. I'm magic. It's not even YouTube. It's me. Smash that subscribe. See, fearful avoidance are magic. I heart you. Thank you for being here. All right, let's get started. So let's get into it. Right, #1. First tendency for fearful avoidance when they are faced with conflict or overwhelmed with stress in a relationship is the love hangover. Everybody knows what a hangover is, right? If you're over 21, right? You know what a hangover is, okay? So it's like that, but you're drunk on love, okay? Got a little too crazy on the love the day before, and you're feeling the effects today, okay? But let me explain if you're not familiar with this term, okay? So this is what it might look like. Let me paint this picture for you, okay? Fearful avoidant, one day, you guys might be really hitting it off. They're just full of love. They're just full of affection. They're sending you sweet text messages all day long, maybe. Maybe they come home and they cook your favorite dinner. Maybe they cuddle up with you on the couch. They're more lovey-dovey. They're looking into your eyes. They're enthralled with you. You guys are having intimacy. You're talking about deep emotions. They're telling you they love you. They're gonna love you forever. So you guys go to bed in bliss. Everything is great. And then suddenly, you're jolted awake in the morning by the sound of a loud, abrupt slamming door. You realize that was your partner leaving for work who didn't even say goodbye to you. And you're like,
No way. No. I must be imagining things.
out that window and no, you're not imagining things at all. They're pulling off in the driveway and they're speeding off down the street to work, having said nothing to you that morning, that cold morning. And you don't like that. That's never a good feeling, right? No. So you decide, I'm not gonna freak out about it. It's fine. Sometimes, maybe they were late. Maybe they just had to run. Maybe they tried to wake me up and I didn't wake up. Just gonna let it go, right? Because we had a great night last night, so it's fine. You decide tonight I'll have dinner ready for them. So you get dinner ready for them this time. Surprise them. They come in the door. They barely greet you. They're very standoffish. They kind of give you a, oh, hey. And then they go off to do their own thing. Instead of being enthralled in you and all your love and everything like that and pulling you in, they're enthralled on their phone. They're enthralled with their Netflix show. They're doing their own hobby. They're barely giving you any answers when you talk to them. One word answers. It's like they're now pushing you away. So what's up with them? You might want to say they're wishy-washy. You might accuse them of being flip-floppy. You might say, you pull me in just to push me away. What's going on? Why do you do this? Well, your partner has a love hangover. So that's what it looks like, okay? And let me tell you why this happens. Let me tell you what's really going on. They allowed themselves to get so much of the good stuff the day prior that they felt fear and shame of an impending doom that they became all too familiar with in childhood. In childhood, fearful avoidants learned that the environment around them couldn't always be trusted. And the same sources that brought them the most love also brought them a lot of tumultuous trauma. Oftentimes, they came from a background of abuse. They came from a background of substance use, or their caregiver could have had mental illnesses. A lot of turmoil in their childhood. So, it could even have been that their caregivers were just dealing with a lot and life was just crazy, chaotic. They came from a chaotic background. So, love didn't come in a pretty package. It didn't come like, here's love and that's what it is and it's not going anywhere and you can have it. Here you go. You can have as much of it as you want. No, it didn't come that way. It came paired with trauma. So they could never attach too tightly. They always had to be ready for things to shift. They always had to be ready for that other shoe to drop. And that's what they're preemptively expecting that. And if it wasn't in their childhood, then it could have been in a very traumatic relationship as an adult. Because fearful avoidant attachment style is the one attachment style, fun fact, that you can pick up in adulthood. So you could come out of your childhood as one of the other attachment styles and be pushed over into the fearful avoidant realm in a relationship that's particularly impactful on you. So fearful avoidants feel like if they indulge too much, there's only a certain threshold that they can get to before they're going to have a debt. They need to expect the coldness is coming or the rejection is coming or the temporary abandonment is coming, because that's what always came in their childhood. They never just got love for free. It always came paired with another day that wouldn't be as good because their caregivers were up and down and up and down and up and down. So it's kind of like the preemptive strike. They got really shell-shocked in childhood when that would happen to them and they weren't expecting it, and that doesn't feel good. That feels like the rug being ripped out from under you. They're going to get a bit of a shame over that. With a hangover the next day, you do the walk of shame, or feel like, oh, what was I thinking? I went way too far. That's how they feel when they give a lot of love or they pull you in too closely. They feel like, oh gosh, I way overdid it. Now I have a day of total separation. I better just go ahead and do it myself. It's like, it's like when you're gonna, this is gross, it's like, when you're gonna throw up after you drink and then you might make yourself throw up to get it over with. That's like this. So they're making that separation happen before it's brought upon them. So some people call it just hot and they're cold. They're so confusing. Like they want me one minute, they don't want me the next. What is going on? Why do they have to be so confusing? They're not doing it on purpose. It is subconscious. They don't necessarily go, all
right, well, I had this much love, so I'm gonna now have this much separation.
They're not thinking of it that clearly. It's just a subconscious trauma response, okay? So what can you do as their partner? Natural thing that a lot of partners will ask themselves is, did I cause this? And if you want me to be blunt with you, maybe. Is it your fault? No, never. It's not your fault for someone else's emotions and what's going on inside of them. You can be possibly a trigger. Your actions doesn't mean you were doing anything wrong or you're doing anything bad necessarily. Some partners are sometimes, but if that's not you, then don't get too down on yourself. It's not your fault. But if you are looking to foster a better attachment with your partner who is a fearful avoidant, it's great to know if you are unintentionally causing a trigger for them into this. Speaking from experience as a fearful avoidant myself, I would behave this way because of the behavior of my partner at times, in a pattern over time. Sometimes I would also do this without provocation. So I wouldn't say that I ever just did this because it was just natural to me and I just did it when nothing triggered me besides the love hangover. I always did it because I also had a fearful avoidant partner and he was having this cycle a lot. So I didn't like that. It made me feel really unsure and unsettled. So I would do this before he could do it to me. The feeling that's coming with this, the underlying core wound is I will be tricked. I can't trust. I will be fooled, basically. I'm stupid. I need to not feel like you got bamboozled. That makes them feel really insecure and it makes them feel really unsafe. I am not safe. That's another one. That's a really big one. You're in the thralls of love. You're so happy and whatever. And like on cloud 9, and then someone comes and rips the rug out from under you. That's not safe. That's not a safe feeling. No one likes that. The sad part is, without ever realizing it and thinking they have all the justification in the world and that they're protecting themselves, they forget that then they are actually then doing that to their partner. So they don't realize this most of the time. Or their partner is doing that to them already, and so they're also doing it. It's just a big mess. So just kind of figure out where you are on that spectrum. You know, if you're another fearful avoidant, ask yourself, are you also doing this cycle? If you are not fearful avoidant, then ask yourself if you're doing any type of distancing or maybe indirect coldness that you're not aware of. Kind of evaluate your actions and see if you could be making them feel like they are unsafe as far as like after a stint of closeness or vulnerability. Again, not your fault, okay? But just it's good to be aware. So if you don't believe that you are triggering this and you just really don't have any idea, the answer is to reassure. So reassure, reassure, reassure. Usually, if someone's pushing you away, what typically is it tempting to do? You likely will give them what they seem to be wanting, right?
Okay, I guess you don't want me around. I'm gonna pull away.
You might get a little offended. You might do it back to them or whatever it is. You're just gonna probably give them space, right? So the fearful avoidant is a little tricky in this way because the thing is, they don't necessarily actually want that space just because they need space most of the time. Also, you know, you're every part of this, you're going to want to communicate with your partner because everybody's different, okay? But for the most part, they're not doing this specifically because they actually want space. They're doing this because they are afraid of being the one that wants more and more love and then getting pushed away themselves. So the answer in this situation as their partner is to stay by them, even if it's uncomfortable at first, and just reassure them that you're there. So show with your actions that you're not going anywhere and that you are ready for some more love. And you can even say,
Hey, I'm here for you.
You can say something like,
Hey, I noticed that you don't seem to be very happy today. Is everything okay? I'm here for you. Well, I'm not going anywhere. You can talk to me.
Reassure them that they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be anything at all for you to want to be around them. You're not abandoning them. You're not pulling away from them regardless. And then you're here to stay. And then show that with your action. Continue to be around them, even if they're kind of acting this way at first, because what's likely to happen is that fearful avoidant probably does want to open up, but they're afraid to. So if you give them that space to do so, they're going to love that. You're going to start to see their walls come down if you continue to do this when their walls go up for the most part. So I'm speaking also from a fearful avoidant lens that is leaning more towards anxious. So it's possible that if you have a fearful avoidant partner that leans more towards avoidant, that could differ a bit. They might actually want a bit of space. They might actually take a little bit longer for their walls to come down. But it's still, no matter what, if they're fearful avoidant, they're going to really benefit from that reassurance and you putting it into action and actually being there for them, even in those times. Okay? So let's take a look at the case of if you are triggering your partner because maybe you got a little cold or you did some type of distancing after they felt really close to you for a while. And then now they're pulling back because of it. And you're kind of recognizing this in it as an afterthought. You're like,
Oh, I did. I wasn't feeling very well. I didn't really communicate that, and I kind of pulled away from them. That probably upset them. That's probably what happened here.
if you come to that conclusion, go tell them that. Even if they're being cold, distant, kind of maybe a little snippy, just say,
Hey, I know that yesterday I was not feeling very well. I just want you to know that had nothing to do with you. Even if there's times like that where I pull away for a minute, I just want you to know I'm not going anywhere and it's never about you. If it was about you, I would talk to you. And it's okay if sometimes I'm not feeling so great and I just have a little time to myself. It doesn't mean I'm gonna leave.
okay, stuff like that. You just really want to like pack it on heavy because that's what they're thinking. Every time you pull away, they're like rejection, betrayal, abandonment, okay? They're afraid of that. Those are their biggest fears. That's what they're worried about, okay? So just reassure, reassure, reassure. It's the best thing. If you do this for a while, you're going to see that these love hangovers, they're going to happen a lot less frequently. The other side, obviously, is that the fearful avoidant, they need to also be doing their work. No, I always say in all of these videos, if you're working with your partner on their attachment style, they should also be working on their own attachment style or it's not going to work. It's not your responsibility to do this by yourself on their attachment style. Okay, it's commendable and beautiful that you love your partner so much that you're willing to work with them and provide that space that is healthy for them, that is going to be conducive to their healing, that they have to want their healing too. Okay, so don't be that partner that's wanting their healing more than they want it. Okay, so the only way this is going to work is if your fearful avoidant partner is also very aware that they are a fearful avoidant and aware of their behaviors and how to work on them. Okay, so they need to meet you in the middle and actually maybe a little bit further, because it's their attachment style. And then vice versa. Whatever your attachment style is, if you're not secure attachment, then you're going to be also working on things to move yourself towards a secure attachment and want to be seeing from them those same things that make you feel more secure in your attachment style to work on the healing. Okay, so it's both ways on both sides. See, the fearful avoidant should really be working on leaning in when they feel like pulling away and trusting their partner, noticing the times that their partner shows up for them, and practicing closeness even when it feels really scary. So things like that, and voicing their needs, speaking up for what they need in the moment, what is going on in their head, what they're feeling, just not keeping it in. They need to voice these things so that their partner doesn't get confused. So that's their work on their side. For overall fearful avoidant attachment style and partnership that involve a fearful avoidant, it's really good for you guys to discuss betrayal and discuss what you define as betrayal. Because a lot of times you'll notice with the fearful avoidant, they might define certain things as betrayal that you didn't define as betrayal. They might find you chatting with a friend about something kind of crappy that they did when they're not around. They might define that as a betrayal, and actually very likely that they define that as a betrayal, because guilty, I would define that as a betrayal. I would say that's crossing the line. Now, is it not okay to talk to friends about your partner when you're feeling upset? It is okay, but you guys have to get together and define what's okay in your relationship as far as privacy and airing your issues and things like that. Now, and personally for me, I think it's just not a good practice to rant negatively about your partner to just anyone, okay? So typically, I would say you pick someone who's very, very close to both of you, really knows your partner, because it's not fair to your partner if you're ranting negatively about them to someone who doesn't know them and doesn't know all the great things about them, because that's just painting them in a bad light. And if that person knows you better, they're going to be like rah, 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 like all about you, and just totally facilitating a separation between you and your partner, and just a breach in the trust, a breach in the connection. And if you're doing this with someone that there could be a question arose of like even borderline emotional cheating, and so you want to just figure out how you define these terms. What do they think is betrayal? Get really specific. What do they think is emotional cheating? What do you define it as? And then figure out where you guys are on that, so that you can make sure that you are not accidentally betraying them. You're going to have massive problems if your partner who's fearful avoidant feels betrayed. So you don't want to do that. Okay, tendency number 2 of the fearful avoidant is erraticism. So this is like unpredictable behavior. It's why fearful avoidants sometimes get accused of like having multiple personalities, or they might get called bipolar, which just is kind of silly because it just kind of shows that people don't quite understand what bipolar means. But it often gets confused with multiple personalities or mood swings. So this would be something that the fearful avoidant hears a lot. It seems like maybe they're like a totally different person from one day to the next. And this doesn't always mean hot and cold. This isn't the love hangover. This is like some days they're very outgoing and chirpy and really like chipper, and maybe really witty and telling a lot of jokes and everything's funny. And then the next day they might just not really feel like joking around, and they're a little bit more calm and stoic. And maybe some of those jokes that flew yesterday are a little bit obnoxious to them today, and they're just kind of like, whatever, they're not like laughing a lot. They seem like a totally different person. And this can obviously be very confusing if someone's very unpredictable. You don't know what behavior or what type of traits you're going to see from one day to another with this partner that you love and cherish and, are trying to get to know all parts of them. It's very confusing. And it's really hard when you don't know what to expect from somebody to feel attached, to feel grounded, to feel secure, which is exactly why the fearful avoidant does this and exactly why they don't feel that way. They adapted this again from childhood. Because the fearful avoidant had caregivers that were very erratic, they never knew what to expect. Their environment was always changing, so they aren't changing their personality. They may just be a very dynamic person. They have lots of different sides to them, and hopefully this is why you love them. It can be exciting. They can sense very subtle energy shifts. So this is a lot of times the thing that triggers them to be a different way from one moment to the next or one day to the next, is because they're picking up on these little things from their environment. They can sense if people are having the slightest little change in their energy, and they are going to adapt to that in whatever way their brain has decided is fit for that. So there's no one way to describe all fearful avoidance and how they will do this, because it's going to be completely different for every individual. So it's just, you just have to get to know your partner's way of doing this. And it's good for you to start to, as their partner, to kind of start to get a little bit, maybe if you're not super perceptive, get more perceptive, pay more attention to what moods are coming out when. And by all means, that is just a suggestion. That's like not required, but I personally think that when you're in a relationship with someone, you should just always want to know everything from the bottom to the top of them. There's always time to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and you should really want to know all of them and everything you can possibly know about them and all the detail you possibly can. And that's what makes you a better partner. That's what makes you guys closer and more connected, and they should also be doing the same for you. So just a suggestion. They're great at reading a room. They usually do a great job of that in general. Sometimes not so great at reading partner situations when they're under stress. Okay, so they might be thinking that they're doing a really good job at reading you and expecting what you're going to do and preemptively adapting, but they get it wrong because they're operating from their childhood brain and or whatever previous relationship brain and whatever they have adapted to, and they're seeing that through their perspective and placing that upon you when you might be totally different. So sometimes they can get this wrong, and that's why it can be problematic. They might perceive in you that you are distancing, but really you just have a headache. And so they might say, oh, distancing, I'm being abandoned. But like, you're not doing that at all. So what can you do as their partner? It really depends, honestly. So how do I say this? If it's not harming you, let that person be. Let your partner be them. Let them shine. Let them be every different dynamic of their personality that they want to be. If it's not harming you and you're just like,
Why are they changing all the time?
you know what? You're with a changeling. As long as it's not like they're changing into being very combative or being kind of snotty towards you, or they're just a little bit different from time to time. Their personality is one way and the other, and it's not harming you. Then I want to say mind your business, but that seems so rude. Okay, I'm not going to say that. But like, let them be. Let them be. Let them be them. Wow. Let them shine. Let them be all of everything they are in their beautiful existence, okay? If it is harming you, you're noticing they do things that are kind of crabby at times. They just get really erratic. They just blow up or something. Those types of behaviors, that's going to be something that you do want to address. Don't ever let somebody be rude and disrespectful towards you. That's just a rule of thumb in relationships. So what do you do when that's happening? You call it out nicely, calmly, in a setting where you two can talk privately and you can be comfortable together talking about the problem, not combative. It's really good to sit next to your partner rather than across from them, where it's like you're going against each other. Because when you sit next to each other, it creates a feeling of what your goal is, which is you two are together as a team tackling a problem, which is your opponent on the other side, okay? Not the two of you as opponents. Okay, so this can facilitate you getting into that feeling. It's really good to have physical touch too. I've been really hearing that a lot more, and people attesting to that being a really good practice that they do with their partner that works very well. They're talking about an issue to help them feel like they're on the same team and they're connected. Is if they are actually physically touching. So holding hands, having a hand on a leg, or cuddling up on the couch when you're having these talks. You want to get close. You want to make them feel like you're on their side and they're on your side. So if you do need to address this erraticism because it's harming the relationship or you want to approach it gently, calmly, privately. And you want to use I feel when this happens statements, because if you avoid the word you, do you, that also helps with them being able to feel like you're on their side. Actually, in any conflict you're having, you can still use the word you. Like you can say what they're doing, but don't be like,
You always do.
You do this and you do that.
but you could say,
I feel really disrespected and really kind of hurt when you suddenly go bossy on me. And I don't understand where it comes from. And it doesn't make me feel very good.
you get it, okay? Make up your own script. You get it. And make it fit to whatever's actually going on. If you approach this gently, this is likely to be pretty relieving actually for the fearful avoidant, as long as you don't come in hot. They're likely to feel relieved that you called it out because, again, this gives them a space to talk about something that they probably actually wanted to talk about anyway, but they were not talking about it because they were afraid. So if you open up that space for them and then they're able to voice this, they're going to probably feel like, oh, they got that off their chest. They're going to feel a lot lighter and they're going to feel seen, which is huge. Like fearful avoidance, they want to be seen, they want to be heard. That's great. That's like check, 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 check. They're going to love it. They're going to feel like you noticed something. You're seeing them. You're seeing what's going on with them. That's a beautiful feeling for anybody almost. This also helps with their safety factor and their trust, because this demonstrates for them that you are willing to be there for them and talk things out with them even when they are not at their best. Sometimes there's this pressure to be a people pleaser with a fearful avoidant even sometimes. When you do this, it makes them feel like that pressure is not so heavy. It makes them feel like you still love them even when they're not at their best, and that you guys can talk through it so that you guys can get back to your best, and that you guys are partners and you're working at this together. They don't feel so alone. They don't feel so afraid. They feel like they can depend on you, which is huge. So talk it out, call it out nicely. Okay? And in a perfect world, what this will facilitate is that the fearful avoidant will pick up on the fact that they are engaging in this behavior at times that's harmful to their partner, harmful to their relationship, that you are a safe space to talk to and to open up about when they feel this feeling. Instead of just going into this erraticism, they can come to you and just be like,
I'm feeling this way. This is starting to make me feel a little bit like triggered, and I know like a second ago I was calm, but right now I'm feeling like 100.
And then you guys can come up with strategies to help them calm down, or they can come up with some of their own to not have to depend on you all the time. But it just really is going to facilitate their growth as well as a more connectedness in the partnership. All right. Tendency number 3, moving right along. Tendency number 3 is dissociate. Not dissociate. This one's kind of scary. I don't like this one. First of all, for those who may not be familiar with it, dissociation is when you separate from your body and the world around you. So it's a state in your mind that you kind of go away to, where you have a somewhat of an out of body experience, where it's like you're not really you in your body at that moment. You don't feel connected to your body and what's happening to you at that moment. And you also might have an overall feeling of like, this world that we're in right now and whatever's going on, it's not real. It doesn't feel like a real life. Okay, so this is something that it's not like a magical power. It's not like they can just be like, dissociate. It's definitely a trauma response. It's a pretty deep one, and it happens under moments of severe stress, severe emotional turmoil. So this is likely a heavy trigger that's triggering them into something that's probably pretty difficult for them. And there's definitely something going on in the moment that has caused this. Beyond their ups and downs and their unpredictability, sometimes fearful avoidance may just like seem downright void of life. And you might not always actually notice when they do this. It's not going to be, hopefully, a very extremely common thing that this happens, and you might not even realize that it happened, because it's very much internal for the fearful avoidant, and they kind of just continue on like autopilot. It's almost like a fugue state where they're still going through all the motions, and you wouldn't be aware that this is happening unless you're inside their brain, because their brain has kind of left the building. It's left its housing. They may seem to be there physically, but maybe absent of emotion or attention span. You may start to feel like you're talking to a robot, or like someone who's just not really there. This may look very strikingly similar to the dismissive avoidance shutdown. So just kind of like, like not a lot going on, you know, not a lot coming out, not a lot going in, all of that. They will simply go away for a while in their mind somewhere. But sometimes anyone who dissociates describes it as they're outside of their body watching what's happening. And the reason that their body would feel the need to do this, or their brain would feel the need to do this, is because whatever is happening at that moment to them, their body, or in their environment, is not okay with them. Highly distressing. It's triggering them in some way. They might be feeling absolutely destroyed by something that's happened or happening. They might feel defeated. They might feel humiliated. They've done the only thing they can do short of completely breaking down in the face of fear and pain. And so this happens sometimes if they're feeling deeply betrayed, if they're feeling extremely disrespected, if they're feeling really violated. It's likely this is pretty significant. It can be something lower level, but even if it seems lower level to you, they're feeling big emotions like humiliation, like defeated, you know, things like that. So I won't say that as their partner, you couldn't miss this or you couldn't understand this is going on and totally overlook it. You could. But again, like really get into a kind of a connection with your partner. And at some point in your relationship, I would hope that if your partner is dissociating, you would start to pick up on that and you would be well aware if something of this nature to this level happened that would affect them this deeply. They may not remember portions of time when they've dissociated. That's possible, such as like a blackout or like going into a fugue state. They basically feel for a moment that they're not themselves and they are instead maybe like a bystander watching, or they're in there but they're just a passenger in the body. They're not in charge. They're not the body. They're temporarily separated from themselves, so therefore they are safe from the effects of whatever is happening. So whatever emotion is happening or whatever physical thing may be happening to their body. They also sometimes report feeling like the world around them is a fake world. So it just feels like maybe like you're in a dream or something like that. Or like a video game. Like when you would watch a video game, like, you know, that's not a real world. Like Sims, that's not the real world. The actual world might feel like that in a dissociative state. From time to time, I have experienced dissociation. I'm going to tell you my quick story with dissociating so you can kind of get an idea of how this could happen. For this story time, click the card in the top corner of this video. Otherwise, let's keep going. So, what can you do if your partner is dissociating? Personally, I've never been witness and been in the know in the moment of someone else dissociating. So, largely on this one, I don't know that you would likely always know that this is happening. It's not going to be super often. This is such a deep trigger for fearful avoidant. If this is happening, this is something big, pretty much. So over time, you are likely to learn when your partner does this, and then you might pick up on it and know when they're doing it. So if you do notice it's happening, and it's happening frequently enough that you do feel the need to address it, you can just offer support. So this is like almost like shock. Okay, so it's, what would you do for someone who's in shock? You just be there for them. You try to bring them back down to a level that they can handle, where they don't have to go away like that. So when they're not actually dissociating, you would want to talk to them about it and say something like,
I've noticed you kind of go away sometimes, and it makes me feel worried that maybe you aren't feeling okay, or you are feeling very overwhelmed, and I really want you to know that I'm here for you. No matter what's going on, I'm going to be here to help you through it.
And then you can just ask them,
do you know what's making this happen for you? Do you know what's making you feel that way? And can you help me to understand how you're feeling?
And a caveat to this conversation is to be ready for the trigger to be you or something you may have done. Not on purpose, but it could be something you meant a totally different way, or you just like didn't realize it was upsetting for them. So the key for that is just don't take it personally. And that can go for anything. Anytime you're like talking to your partner about how they feel, Oftentimes, we as each other's partner, we trigger each other. So just like make sure you go into that question like already pre-understanding that the answer could be that it's you. Fearful avoidant common tendency number 4 is their worldview, which is I'm not okay, you are not okay, and actually nobody is okay. No one. Yikes. Big yikes. Your worldview is the way you view yourself, the people you are closest with, and just the world in general. Everyone as a whole, like all the people around, any person. So each attachment style has a slightly different worldview. So I'll run them down real quick because they don't take long. So the securely attached individual has a worldview of I'm okay, you might be okay, we'll see. I'm going to think that you're probably okay and give you a chance. And then the world might be okay. I'll give everybody a fair shot. And if they're not, then I'll see that and I'll be okay. So that's fine. All right. A dismissive avoidance worldview says I'm okay, you're not okay, and the world probably isn't okay. But that's okay because I'm okay and I don't need anybody in the world, okay? It's so good. I love it. Okay, so then the anxious preoccupied worldview is I am not okay. You're okay. I need you. And the world's probably okay. I hope so because I'm not okay. And I need others, okay? So funny. I love it. And then we come to fearful avoidant. Debbie Downer. No one's okay. Not them, not their partner, and nobody out there. Nobody's okay. This cracked me up when I heard it. I was like, dang. If that is not the truth though. When we say okay, it means okay to trust. It means that person is safe. They won't hurt me. They're not going to betray me. They're not a bad person. I'm safe with them mostly. Okay? So if we say I'm not okay, that means fearful avoidance, they don't really believe in themselves. They don't really trust themselves. They've been let down by people lots of times and they blame to themselves. They're like, you don't have a good judge of character because you keep running into these people that just tear you apart and you thought they were trustworthy. So you're not okay to themselves. And then likewise, they've had many interactions with relationships and caregivers initially in childhood that those people weren't okay. They broke their trust. They betrayed them. They let them down. Largely, the world has let them down. So nobody's okay, which is where they get their name from. It's fearful. That's a scary life to live. They're afraid. No one's okay. Not even me. Yikes. All right, quick wardrobe change. Where were we? Oh, no one's okay. So everyone, essentially, with an insecure attachment style, even sometimes those with a secure attachment style, there's so many different factors. The foundational trust in the world around them and in the people who were designated to love and take care of them was breached at some point. That happened with pretty much anyone with an insecure attachment style in some way. So for the fearful avoidant, definitely this happened, and it happened frequently. So they learned to fear what having trust in other people could cause for them. And sometimes just if nothing like that has really ever happened to someone, people that you love and care for you and think can be there for you and you can depend on, I think that breaches of trust with people like that in your life, if no one has ever deeply betrayed you or really just like shocked everything you believed in, just like shook the ground you walked on and like just completely just changed everything for you, your whole outlook on the world and life and everything. If that's never quite happened, it's easy to minimize that. And I mean, that's how people are in general. I mean, if you haven't quite experienced something, you can maybe empathize by comparing it to something that's maybe equally as devastating and understanding that that's the same as it feels, and then that's called empathy. But truly, it is a pain and an insecurity that breeds in you that is just hard to describe until you go through it, and it's just so unnerving. So it can change your whole life. It can change everything that happens to you. Even things that happen in adulthood with your relationships. It can change your entire life. Going through something very traumatic or having your trust broken in such a deep foundational way like that. So it's natural that they would fear this. It's totally understandable. That's the world we live in. sometimes, you know? So I totally get it. And I actually really do get it because I am a fearful avoidant. I came up with the anecdotal analogy, if you'd like to hear it, to help with this part. So I'm pretty proud of it. So here you go. Imagine if you went to the beach, and every single time you went to the beach from the beginning of time, your whole life, okay, it rained. Every time. You've never been to the beach when it doesn't rain. The beach and rain go together for you. 100% of the time, okay? You would likely stop going to the beach and just like assume that it's rainy at the beach. It's going to be rainy every time you go, right? It's a waste of time because you want to go there to sunbathe. You're going to go there to build sandcastles. You want to go there to swim in the ocean. You want to go there to enjoy the sun and the summer weather. It's not happening for you, okay? So it's a waste of time because you can't go do that at the beach, right? So you might stop going to the beach. And when people ask you, you're like, well, it always rains. It always rains at the beach. And then even if other people had stories of going to the beach and having a great time and it not raining and having all the sun in the world and all those things, all those activities and just the best old time, it would be very hard for you to believe or imagine that truly happening if all you ever experienced was it raining at the beach, right? I mean, right? So it's a sad situation because that's how relationships are for the fearful avoidant. And that's how relationships are for, you know, pretty much anyone that's just continuously been betrayed by people all their life. And that happens. I mean, it's not, we tend to say like, you always play the victim. That can't just always be happening to you. You're not always the victim. But like quite literally, it's not impossible. There are people, a lot of the time, that absolutely are repetitively the victim. And that's not to say that a portion of that first part isn't true. That, you know, they are the common denominator. It is not their fault ever. It's not their fault. But there is a responsibility piece in there and a different path that needs to be taken and like an examination of why it's happening to them and taking on that responsibility instead of falling into the I can't do anything about it mode. So that's what that means. And a lot of times people kind of twist that.
So, oh, you just always play the victim for attention and this can't always keep happening to you.
That's not, no. I'm sure some people do that, but not the majority, okay? Very much so, there are people that have just been repeatedly victimized. Absolutely. And so it's pretty hard for them when they're going through life and they're just down on their luck and they just don't believe that that's ever going to work out for them. And when people that have had better luck or the better lot in life or led them to know the right things to look for and led them to be able to attach securely and things like that, tell them,
oh, you can totally find somebody great. Then now you can trust people. Like relationships, you know, you gotta just put yourself out there. You just gotta try again.
What are you talking about? Sounds like they're just talking from La La Land. They're talking from Disney movie or something. Because you're just like,
do you know what this feels like to go through this?
So I just feel like when it comes to worldview for fearful avoidance, an empathy piece is so important. Because they're not just like miserable, miserly people that are just like, I hate everyone. You know, they're not like the Scrooge from the movie. Like they've been hurt so bad from as far back as they can remember. And when something is your only experience, it's likely that you're going to expect that's going to keep happening to you. And then you get in a cycle of self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's just a big mess. It's so hard to break free from. It's so hard to turn it around. People that break free from such a tumultuous background, I don't know that sometimes they get enough credit for that. It's hard to do. I mean, I'm in my 30s and I still haven't broken free from it. I'm doing hard work. We all gotta have some empathy for each other and grace and patience, and don't let people walk all over you. Don't enable people, but give people some compassion. And if you love somebody, work with them. Help them get through this. Be a partner. Fearful avoidance? Hold on. Stick through it. You can do this, okay? Your turn is coming. You're going to find that partner that you're going to get through it with. So what can you do as their partner if you're already in the relationship and you're a partner of a fearful avoidant who is behaving fearfully with their fearful worldview. Well, the remedy for fear is safety. So if they're behaving fearfully, you can provide a safety. You can do your best to provide safety. I'll just say that. And everything is on a spectrum. So depending on how far they are into it and how, open they are to healing it, this could be really helpful. It could also not be. But this is the best you can do. Fearful avoidance feel safest where there is transparency and where they are able to know what to expect. This is really big, okay? So you almost want to over communicate with a fearful avoidant. Tell them as much as you're comfortable with, everything you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and every last detail of it, so that they can always be completely clear on that. And it's fully transparent, because that really helps them to feel secure. And that doesn't mean that you have to be perfect, and that plans can never change, and that you might miss the mark by a few minutes if you told them a certain time when you're going to come home. I'm not telling you to be like rigid, but as much as you possibly can, just be transparent. Like if you're leaving, don't just be like, all right, I'll be right back. Go out the door. If you're with a fearful avoidant, say, I'm going to the corner store, be back in 10. Because that would drive me crazy. I had a partner that just he was so obscure. Almost purposefully. It's a sneaky behavior. He wasn't trying to be sneaky, but it was about nothing at all. There was no reason for it. It was just like a learned obstinance about it. And so it would drive me nuts. I would be like, why don't you just say what you're doing? I don't get it. Why are you being so obscure? He was saying, I'm not being obscure. I don't have to tell you every detail. And it's the stubbornness a bit. So this part is likely to arise as a point of contention with the dismissive avoidant, with the fearful avoidant. Because the dismissive avoidant, one of their self-limiting beliefs is, I will be trapped. I will be controlled. I will be a mesh. I won't have my individuality. I won't have my space. Oftentimes, this can manifest into sneaky behaviors for the dismissive avoidant, and it's just where they're withholding information for just absolutely no reason at all, besides it's none of your business. Okay, so when they're with a fearful avoidant who really benefits from transparency, and they're just withholding things for absolutely no reason, there's nothing going on. There's just no reason at all. You can see why that's just a recipe for disaster. There's just no need for that. So it's going to be a trigger. And so the best thing you can do, if you're the partner of a fearful avoidant, give details. Be transparent. And find out what's a comfortable level of transparency with your particular relationship. You got to talk to your partner, like I've said in every step. It's going to be what feels best for you guys. And come to a compromise and fill that out. Let them know that you're there for the long haul. You're committed to working on it. You want to make these changes and meet them in the middle, and you're not going anywhere. And they're going to be terrified to believe that. But over time, if you stay consistent, you can really help them along. Help us. Love us. Love. Okay, that brings us to tendency number 5. Number 5 is what I like to call shrink, 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 fight.
Shrink, shrink, shrink.
Fight. Is that the right stance? I don't know. I literally can't fight. I don't fight people. I never fought anyone. So don't take tips from me on that one. We won't be giving any tips about fighting on this channel. Get your whole ass beat. So shrink, 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 fight. The fearful avoidant has the bad reputation of being very volatile during conflict situations in long-term relationships. Yeah, this is my least favorite one. Well, okay, no, this is my second to least favorite one to talk about. It's one that I really, really don't like about some of my tendencies in relationships, when I get very dysregulated, when I'm feeling very hurt, when I'm feeling very taken advantage of, when I'm feeling treated very badly. This is what tends to happen after that happens for a long time. And I always feel so much like I'm taking my power back in the moment, and like it's been just like an inevitable long time coming, and that I was forced into it. But in self-reflection, I know the answer is I much more hold the opinion that it should never get to that point, no matter what. There should never be anyone that you allow to push you to that level in a relationship. If that's a sign, if you're getting to that level in a relationship, that is a sign that you have far overstayed your welcome and that you should have already been gone. Period. No two ways about it for me. That is a very clear stance I have. Because how am I going to let you make me step out of my character? That's my character. I'm in charge of it. I determine it. I don't have to be there. It's kind of ridiculous to blame another person for a way that you're behaving. Get away from that person. And please understand, I way understand abuse victim dynamics. So I understand that sometimes abuse victims do not leave right away, and that it actually takes, I think it's an average of something like 7 or 8 times for a victim of abuse to attempt to leave their abuser before they successfully leave their abuser. And that is through the domestic violence hotline website where they compile this information. So that is an actual statistic from tested information from individuals in that situation. So I get that. So I am not talking about that at all. I'm talking about regular relationships where you have overstayed your welcome. You've seen the signs several times and you're getting angrier and angrier, and then you're blowing up, and then you're going,
They didn't like my kindness. They tested my patience. They didn't like the kind, soft side of me. They walked all over that. So now they get this.
no. No. Because every time, I know for me, at least speaking for me, that really is out of my character, 100%. It almost pains me to go to that level. Ouch! It does pain me. I'm filled with shame after the fact. I hate it. I absolutely wish I could erase it every time it happens, and I just feel so regretful. Every single time across the board. There's not one time I can point to that I can go,
I feel really good about the fact that I did that. There was nothing wrong there.
no, I don't feel that way at all. I wish I could take them all back. It's not likely to start out this way. If a fearful avoidant is getting volatile, it is not likely that it started out that way. Fearful avoidants across the board, they are prone to people pleasing in the beginning of relationships. So they tend to form silent contracts. Okay, and let me tell you what this is. So this looks like someone who is going above and beyond for their partner, even at the sacrifice of their own needs, and completely disregarding themselves in certain situations just to solely focus obsessively on their partner's needs and making their partner happy. And then acting like that's just literally how they are. Like, oh, that's no problem. This is what I always do. Just being real cool and laid back. It's this excessive effort to seem effortlessly giving and good and attentive to this person's needs, so that this person will see you as a quality partner, will see you as having value, will feel very lucky to be with you. So that's what people pleasing, that's usually the goal of people pleasing, is to get validation from an outward source that you are good, lovely, amazing. They're so happy to have you. That's the whole goal of people pleasing, which is why it is equated with a minor form of manipulation, because it is, period. I hated that fact. I hated it. And it's just bad for everyone involved. So I recommend stop pleasing people. Stop it. You need to please yourself. Think about your own self-consideration. It's very important, okay? So I'm just going to touch on that right now, but I will be doing a whole episode on that. The FA and the anxious preoccupied even as well, very much so, the anxious preoccupied, will likely be doing this and believing wholeheartedly that this is their genuine nature, that this is just natural, how they are, this is who they are. They have themselves convinced of that. Because it's not 100% not true. I mean, that is true. They are. But they don't feel like that can just be seen by them having consideration for themselves, caring for themselves, and just kind of like letting things flow and being themselves. So that's where it becomes a manipulative tactic, because they feel like they have to overgive. And they're happy to do so. They are happy, ready, and willing to do so. But at the expense of a silent contract. So in the background of all of this is the expectation that this is going to result in them being validated and appreciated outwardly and loved and reciprocated. They don't necessarily want it to be like tit for tat, but they certainly want to be loved, and they want to know that their partner wants them and is willing to go to certain extents to show that to them and to give that to them as well, just like they are. And the problem with this is that their partner has no idea that that's what's going on. They have no idea. So what tends to happen is overgiving too soon in a relationship communicates an air of desperation, for one. It shows a lack of self-consideration, which is one of the most attractive qualities that we look for in someone else when we first meet them, is that they have a consideration for themselves, a love and a care and a value in themselves. That's what's attractive. Now, if someone is attracted to someone who lacks confidence and who is self-conscious and things like that, that tends to be someone who is looking to exploit that. That is why people who have low confidence and low self-worth tend to repeatedly get into relationships with people who take advantage of them, because that is what that person is attracted to, because that's how they can get what they want, which is to control, manipulate, all of those things. So if you lack self-consideration, you're going to put yourself up for a greater risk of getting in those types of relationships and attracting those types of people to you. Self-consideration is attractive to people who want a quality, healthy relationship that is a good give and take and balance. So therefore, when people-pleasing manifests as the FA, showing that they are willing to just completely not consider themselves and focus only on their partner's needs, and maybe change plans and change up their whole schedule, their whole day, everything that's supposed to be important to them, just to accommodate their partner. And they're always willing to do that, and they're willing to do that right out the gates. It communicates a message of, this person doesn't find themselves valuable or worthy, and then so maybe I should take note of that. Maybe I should take heed. Maybe I should listen to what they think about themselves, because who knows them better than themselves? It sends a subconscious message to others, if you don't value yourself, that you are probably the best judge of yourself, and that they should also probably not think that you have a lot of value. And no one's like consciously thinking that about you, but that's the subconscious energy that's transferring. We transfer subconscious data and energy at 1 billion bits per second. Our conscious one is only transferring at 40 to 60 bits of data per second. 40 to 60 compared to 1 billion, okay? Got excited there. Sorry, 1 billion. So it's a massive difference, okay? So we can't keep up with what's going on subconsciously, but it is transferring. It is transmitting constantly, all the time. So that's how that happens. And then additionally, we know from childhood, this is like parenting 101. When you give someone everything they want without them having to work for it, without them having to give anything in return, with just, here you go, have it all, they're not going to likely try for that or reciprocate that or really value that, right? It's not going to seem like it's valuable because it's free. It's free. Why wouldn't you take something that's free? I don't have to work for this and I can have this. Why would I change that? Why would I do anything differently? It's unlikely that someone would. This is likely to have the opposite outcome, actually, and cause the FA's partner to be a bit reclusive, pull back, put in less effort. They won't likely be aware of this, again. In most cases, it's going to feel extremely natural to them, and they're going to feel very warranted and like they're just naturally going with the flow. They're not going to be aware of this at all. Additionally, the FA's partner is not likely to be aware of those extreme sacrifices that the FA is making to spend time with them, to have dates with them, to accommodate what works best for their partner. The partner's not going to be aware that those are sacrifices because the FA is playing it off like this is just who they are and this is just natural and this is like, what's the big deal? So that it creates an illusion of, what a great person for me to be with. Like this is just how they are. Wow. What a gem I found. And so it's, I hate this, but it's disingenuous a bit. Everyone's on their best behavior in the beginning. So it's not like that's not a part of your personality, and it's not like you don't mean it genuinely, but it's too much sometimes. Throughout this time, in the background, the FA is developing this mental note of everything that they're doing that's so amazing. And it seems 10 times more amazing because they know all the blood, sweat, and tears that went into making that happen. But they're not realizing that performative piece that they're putting on when they get there, of this just being as easy peasy lemon squeezy as possible, that their partner just thinks that wasn't a big deal. So they still think they're on even playing fields on a conscious level. And the FA's like,
Of course they're going to reciprocate because they can see all this wonderful stuff I'm doing for them.
with validation and love and praise and appreciation, all that stuff. And sacrifice of time, sacrifice of other people. They had something planned, and the FA might be willing to drop all their plans with anybody else as soon as the partner's available. But that partner might be like, why would you do that? They don't know that they did that. So then when they have plans and the FA is like, but I can do this right now, then their partner might be like, oh, I'm sorry, we'll have to do this next time because I already have plans with so-and-so. And that will upset the FA likely because they're like, I dropped everything for you. I'm always dropping everything for you. But the partner doesn't know that. And also the FA shouldn't be doing that. So that's the silent contract right there. That's a great example of the way that works sometimes. Expectations behind the silent contract are likely to go unfulfilled. They tend to always go unfulfilled because they're silent. One of the biggest necessities in a relationship is communication clearly and constantly, effectively, efficiently. Just communicate. You have to communicate everything, okay? So anything that is silent is not going to likely turn out the way you're hoping. That's just a constant you can expect, okay? If you didn't communicate about it, it's probably not going to go your way, period. So always expect that. That is something you can expect. The partner tends to become accustomed to these courtesies, thinking that this is just the way it naturally is unfolding. If these actions are a bit over the top, like I said, it can make the partner feel a bit repelled and kind of like, what is this? Like, why are you so eager? I don't know you that well. I mean, even if it's like a month or two into the relationship, it's like, why are you willing to do everything for me? So you don't even know me that well. It just seems like displaced affection. Like it could have just been kind of copy pasted onto anyone. And that just doesn't feel good. So additionally, when one partner does all the work, performing as though it's just second nature, the other partner is most likely to feel like, well, I'm just going to let them be them. They seem to love doing this. Like, that's fine. So I don't need to, there's no gap to fill. I don't need to do anything. They're just being them. So therefore, what is the problem? To compound the problem with silent contracts, as the FA is doing all these people-pleasing behaviors, they're going to start noticing that they actually are not being reciprocated, that they're not actually that appreciated, that oppositely, they're actually a bit annoyed with them, and that they are getting treated maybe not how they deserve to be treated. And this is going to start a bit of disappointment rising in the FA. They're going to start to get a little bit upset about this. They're not going to show that right away. They're going to continue, maybe even bumping up the behavior a bit, maybe even escalating it to the next level and trying even harder to people please. So they're like, okay, well, maybe I'm not as great as I think I'm being, and maybe I just need to do more to a level that they can't deny it. And like no one could deny that I'm doing something so amazing. So I'm going to do something so amazing. I'm going to be so great. And then they step it up another level. And they're like, well, after this, if they don't notice this, if this doesn't get me appreciation and love and reciprocation, then I'll know it's their problem. It's not me. Who would not be able to see that this is great and this is something you would want to have. But it's, no, no, stop it. That's not how you do things. That's so backwards. If someone's already not meeting you halfway, if you're going into the middle and someone's not meeting you in the middle there halfway, don't close the gap by going all the way over to their side and finishing the entire project with no assistance. Why would that? What work is there going to be for them to do then? They're going to do none. Clearly. So that's the wrong direction. Don't do that. They're going to begin to notice this anger rising inside of them, but they're going to continue to shrink. So they're going to continue to push down their needs, push down their urge to say something, to keep up this facade that they're just the cool guy, the cool girl. No, it's no big deal. I don't need anything. I'm fine. No, it's fine. No, I'm cool. I'm laid back. I don't get mad about things like that. you know? So they're going to keep doing that. And that's the shrinking. They're shrink all their needs and wants and desires because they're still just so focused on what this person feels, and what this person needs, and what this person loves, and what if they're going to be accepted by this person. It's just like I can feel the anxiety of this. I've been through this song and dance a time or two, more than that. And it's just so terrible. I hate it. It never ends well. I will never do it again. I will never do it again. And I'm trying to help you if you're like that as well, if you're a people pleaser. I'm trying to really press it. Why this is not good to do. Do not do it. Please. Please me right now. Don't do that. People please me by never doing that again in your life. Okay? Soon that kind of bubbles over into a resentment. They want this to serve as some type of motivation for their partner to see this person always chooses to give to me. This person always chooses to think about me. This person's always so considerate. These are the thoughts that are going on in the FA's head. They fail to understand that what's going on in their head is not what's going on in other people's head. That other people have all their own thoughts and their own expectations, and they might not be anything like what we as ourselves are thinking. And so if it doesn't come out of your mouth in a clear communication to set some expectation, then it's likely that the other person is not thinking like you. And you would be incorrect to believe that that's just how people should think. And that's how maybe you think they should, but that does not mean that they are. And most often, they aren't. That would be a mistake. The partner's not thinking like the FA, and they're not aware of this process as it's unfolding. And so the FA will probably, before the fight, attempt to nonchalantly bring this up as it starts to bother them a little bit more and more. And especially if they start to get into some little disagreements with their partner over time and they feel like they weren't treated fairly because they feel like they're being underappreciated. And so if their partner is complaining about something or does something kind of inconsiderate of them, they're going to be like,
what the heck? Like, what more do I have to do to make you see that I'm valuable?
And they aren't going to come out and say that. So they're just going to probably bring it up nonchalantly or make a joke about it or kind of say very sweetly, kindly, gently.
It's kind of bothering me that you did this.
And they're not going to be real clear about it. And they're not going to be real open about what it is they do want to see. They're going to probably bring up what they saw that they don't like, but they're not going to be saying what they do want. And you should just be saying what you do want, not telling them everything they're doing wrong. That's just a good rule of thumb. And so the way this tends to pan out is their partner's going to probably dismiss this every time it happens. Because imagine someone revealing to you that for months and months and months now, acts of kindness, love that they've been giving to you have been racking up some sort of debt from them. And this person's basically telling you that you've been failing at something, but they've waited all this time to bring it to your attention and tell you that you're failing at it and that you're not measuring up to it. When you thought all that time that everything was great and everything was fine.
Bruh.
That's likely to put someone on the defensive because they, all this time, have not seen that. They have not been aware of that at all. So they're going to be like,
what? No. Like, that's not how it... I mean,
even if you're accurate, even if your information that you're bringing them is accurate, and then you're just telling them what went down and how it made you feel, they're going to be like, no, because that's not the relationship they've been having in their understanding at all. It's just really like, not a good way to go about things, okay? And so when the FA gets dismissed, when they try to bring this up nicely, the FA will again shrink. They'll just kind of put that away and hope that all of their small little nonchalant attempts to point it out will equate to one full attempt and get it through the partner's head, and they'll change it. You know, they'll start doing what they want them to do, which is showing them that in return. And appreciation and validation, all that. It's not what happens typically. As more and more time goes on, the FA kind of twists that a bit in their mind sometimes, and they think,
I have made this so blatantly clear. I have said this 1,000 times, and they're just downright disrespecting me at this point. They're just totally dismissing me on purpose, also. They're doing it in my face. They're just like, F you, don't care about your needs, don't care about what you're sharing with me, don't care about your feelings, and I just don't even care.
They just start like compiling this massive anger inside of themselves. They get themselves all riled up. They're like,
They're disrespectful. They don't give a crap about me. Who do they think I am? They think they can just treat me like this? They don't know how to treat me.
then they think of other people that have mistreated them in the past, and
They're like, no, I'm not going to do this again. Who do they think I am? Who do they think they are?
they just kind of like building themselves up over and over, more and more and more, as this does not get any change enacted from their partner. At that point, they're like,
I've done so much, I'm not doing anything else. I don't have to fix this. It's on them. They better show me what I need to see, or I'm done here.
and they're just building it up more and more and more. It's festering over. And then one day, the division and the way that the FA sees the imbalance of giving and taking, it's going to build up so much that it's right there at the surface, and it's just a trigger hair away from just going kaboom. And so then their partner might overlook something nice they did for them, or just kind of treat them a little less than they think is proper. The little, it could be a little tiny thing, but it's going to be that straw that breaks the camel's back, and they're going to fight. So where every other time they might have just shrunk down, maybe even cried, they're not going to shrink this time. They're going to get very big and bold and loud, and they're going to fight. So they're going to go,
You know what?
yes.
And another thing.
And this is when months, sometimes years, of built up resentment and frustration and feeling so disregarded and hurt feelings, disappointments, and wasted time they feel, and wasted effort is going to all come out like one big weapon of mass destruction and fly at their partner at a crazy speed and an insane volume, and it's just going to be like a massive bomb has gone off, named Fearful Avoidant. It's going to look like them raising their voice. Maybe they're going to accuse, they're going to make a bunch of accusations based on their own assumptions that have been taking place over this time that their partner's not aware of. They might insult, they might call names, they might become aggressive and throw objects or slam things down or stomp or flail their arms or slam doors, walk off. They might cry, they might sob, they might scream. I don't know. It can be a range of very upsetting behaviors and very uncomfortable experience. Not fun to go through. They're going to dump out a whole slew of incidents that they've piled up where their partner was wrong or didn't reciprocate and treated them badly, or like as less than they deserve, as evidence for their case that they are now going to try to prove in this moment where they have been holding back for all this time. As someone who has come to that point a few times in life, that exact moment, you feel so mistreated at that time. You feel so out of control. You feel so done wrong. But I just have to be honest with you. And I've had to tell myself this for a while, and I really hated it. I really hated this. But here's the truth. You do not have the right to treat your partner that way. You were not right in that situation. You were not. You cannot do that. No matter what. You cannot act that way. It is not right. You don't have the right. Okay? The sooner that you can accept that and take that in and stop making excuses for that behavior, the sooner you can grow and reach a more secure attachment and just be a better person all around. I had to do it. I know. When you feel like you've been treated so badly, so repeatedly by people, it's really hard to take that feedback. And you feel like, I'm so kind in all situations. I'm so giving. I never get recognized for it. Never, you know. So it feels so upsetting to have to take one moment of where you felt like you were pushed to the edge and self-reflect on that and go, I didn't have the right to do that. It's hard, but it's the right thing to do. So Gotta avoid this. And the way you avoid this is by not people pleasing. Don't do it. So let's look at partner intervention. So as their partner, what can you do if your avoidant partner is behaving this shrink, shrink, shrink fight tendency? Now, if you haven't seen this video or gotten this information until your FA has already gotten to fight, then it can be difficult, or you might not even realize this is happening because it may be still in the shrink, shrink, shrink stage, okay? So ideally, you would want to interrupt this process before it gets to the fight. It's beneficial to everyone if we can avoid that moment, because what tends to happen is after the fight happens, they're not going to shrink anymore, more often than not. There's going to be much less shrinking, and it's going to be like 0 to 100 real quick, like every time after that point. If they've come through a portal, and then that portal has now disappeared, so the shrink realm is not available to them anymore. They have crossed the threshold, and now all it is fight. They don't have the patience to withstand any shrinking anymore. And that's when your relationship is going to go down the tube, period. So it's best to intervene before that. Doesn't mean it's impossible if it's after. It's just a lot harder. Okay, so if you notice that the fearful avoidant seems to be a lot more sad more often, and is a lot more in their avoidance more often, or is a really, really obvious indication of this is you've had a conversation about something that they brought up that was a problem for them, and they bring it up again. And you're like, we already talked about this. Well, you might have already talked about it, but it was not resolved in their mind. So they didn't reach the outcome or goal that they're obviously seeking, or they haven't seen a change in it, in whatever they're hoping to see a change in. So that's when you want to pick up on that. Like if they just keep bringing up that same problem over and over, and you're just like, why do you want to talk about this every day? That's what sometimes my partner would say.
We talk about this every day.
And I'm like, no,
We literally don't. You avoid it and dance around it every day, and we never get anywhere with it. That's why I'm still bringing it up, obviously.
and he just couldn't understand that. And so if a fearful avoidant continues to bring up the same topic, then you are not resolving it in the way that they are trying to resolve it. Doesn't necessarily mean like they're not getting their way. It just means it's not resolved. So you guys did not come to a mutual agreement of some sort. It's still a problem, at least for them. If your partner has a problem, you as a relationship have a problem. If they are upset about something in the relationship, you have a relationship level problem. It's your problem too. Okay, so you don't get to say,
You're the only one that cares about that, so that's not my problem. That's your problem.
no. No. That's the whole point of a partnership. Okay, it's your problem too. If they are upset about something, you need to care about that. You have to have some level of not wanting your partner to remain upset. So if it's a repetitive thing that they're bringing up, ask yourself, how did the last conversation about that end? Try to remember, what did it end on? Did we agree on something? Maybe they're not recognizing that you came to a resolution or what you thought was a resolution, and then you can just bring that up and be like, I was under the impression that we were in agreement on this and we were proceeding like this. It seems like you still have some concerns about this topic, and I want to resolve it. So is this not a credible resolution for you? Did this not work for you? And so another thing, you can just really try to get to the bottom of understanding the problem from their viewpoint. So what is the problem? Why does it hurt them? If you can't put these things into words, if you can't articulate what their issue is and why it hurts them, and you can't explain that in your own words to where they can be like,
Yeah, that's correct.
then you need to dwell in that area a little bit further. You need to understand, why does this make this person upset? What about it is upsetting? And what role am I playing in that? And you figure out how to resolve it by what you two are willing to do to come to a compromise. So I would set aside a day or an evening where nothing else is on your plans, nothing can come in between it. Everything else is on priority level 2, and this is your focus, and you're going to work at that problem and understanding the entire issue from front to back until it is resolved. And your partner says, it's resolved. This is our agreement. This is how we're going to work on this, and it is now resolved. In a relationship, conflict resolution is of utmost importance. It needs to be done often and immediately. because every moment that you remain disconnected from your partner, you form sometimes this more and more difficult bridge to cross. Then it just gets bigger and bigger, and every time you're just setting yourself back more and more spaces to where the journey back to each other is longer and harder to complete. So you want to just always resolve those disconnections quickly. And so, like, I had a partner that never wanted to do that. He would literally run away, procrastinate constantly with every tiny issue, every little thing, and then, try to place blame that these things weren't resolved. But it's like, you won't work with me to resolve them. You just think they need to be your way and what's going on in your head, and I don't feel that way. So we have to compromise. But there would never be any given focused time to do that. It would just always be dismissed away, deflected, pushed out, not a priority. And you can't have a relationship like that. The problems could be this tiny, like tiny little pebbles. But then there's this one, then there's this one, and then this one's growing. And then it's just like, soon you have this mountainous pile of problems, and you don't even remember all of them. You don't even know. You're just pissed at this person. You just nearly can't stand them, and you can't even point out the exact reasons. But there's just so freaking many, you don't even know where to begin. You have to tell a lifelong story to even get to the beginning of what even needs to be worked on, and it's a mess. That is just sending your relationship down the toilet, just flushed away and never to be revived. You can't. You can. I won't say you can't, but you can, but that's going to be like therapy. That's going to be like hard work for a long time. And you just don't need to put yourself through that, or your partner. Just conflict resolution. Got to happen early and often, right away. Nip those problems in the bud as soon as possible. And sometimes you can't do it in one evening. You can't. If it's a really difficult problem, sometimes you got to let it ride a little bit. So it's like, just feel out each situation, but you don't just ignore a problem and kind of hope that it'll go away. And then the next one you're like, no, not that one either. And no, don't do that. You're just setting yourself up for absolute failure. Now, if you want to know what you can do as their partner, if they've already gotten to the fight stage, so they're very volatile. They're hard to talk to now. They're easily offended now. They kind of take it a little too far at times in conflicts, and that makes you want to pull away from the conflict even more and avoid the conflicts even more because they're like this now. What can you do? Get the assistance of a therapist to help you guys through this, okay? Because it's too difficult at that point to reach a resolution all on your own. You're going to need some guidance and some professional help to do that. If you can't afford that, there's forums online. There's a lot of different therapists on YouTube that discuss a plethora of topics where you can kind of do your own self-help if you're that disciplined and you think you can do that. That's not impossible. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to take a dedicated person giving it a full focused effort over a long stretch of time without folding. So if you feel like you can work at it like that, then of course, fight for what you love and fight for what you want. But just know that it's going to take a lot of dedication, and it's not going to be happening overnight. And you're going to have to just keep at it and have a lot of resilience and have a lot of perseverance. And for sure, anybody that has that, anything that you believe in enough, you can reach your goals. So the gist of this is, the earlier on you can interrupt the issue and start working at conflict resolution, especially if you can catch it before the fight stage, the better. All right, we might be expecting to see number 6 right here, but sorry to let you down, but there won't be a number 6 on here right now. Actually, number 6 is a little tough for me. It's a little hard for me to cover, but I definitely want to do it, and I already have started it. It's almost done, but it's so in-depth that I think it deserves an episode all of its own, and I am going to go ahead and separate it out in the next episode. So that part is going to come out on Friday, 2 days from now.
Pause.
Be on the lookout. Please hit that bell for your notifications so that you get reminded, because number 6 is
Ooh wee.
okay for real. For now, ta-ta. Bye.